Okay, good morning. I'm going to go ahead and release this first little video right away. I had a question about somebody was having an error message with step 5 on page 301. So I'm going to go ahead and make this first video that covers up to page 301. Basically what we've got here is a file where everything is built in the same file. And this isn't very typical when you're working with Revit. What more often happens is different disciplines like architecture, structure, electrical, they each have their own file, and then what has to happen is we make consolidated models, and these are confederated models, I've heard them also called. So what this is like all the data from all the different people working on the building all come into one single file. And these federated models can be created by the architect during the design phase, and sometimes also by the contractor during the contracting phase. And they can get very, very complex. They can have 2D information, they can have 3D information, they can contain information from everything from soils engineering and site design and cut and fill patterns, all the way up to lighting analysis and energy analysis for the HVAC system. So this set of operations that we're working on here, I'm not super happy with the way the book discusses it, but it's a really important thing to understand if you're going to be using this professionally. Having said all that, let me show you what the book wants to do. I'm going to first go into the 3D view of the model. And this is the model of everything. If I were to delete one of these walls, you could see in there that all the structures inside there, all of that's in place. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that little deletion. The way I'm going to select, what I need to do is rip the structure out of this building and create a separate file for the structure. And so what page 301 has you do first is select the entire building. You're going to hit the filter button, and you can see there are 200 different objects that I've selected, which really isn't that many considering we've got a whole shell of a building and a structure of a building. But we're going to say check none, and then the only thing we want, the only part of this we want, are the groups. And that's because the model groups, those 4 model groups, are the groups of the structure. Okay, now we're not including the columns because we're going to grab those in a second step so that they can show you 2 different methods for doing this process. So the first method that they're going to show you is to create a group out of these groups. So the model groups, the 4 model groups are all that I have selected. I click apply, okay, and then I'm going to isolate those using the sunglasses. I'm going to say isolate those elements so we can see those 4 elements. And I'm going to temporarily deselect them. You don't need to do that, but I'm going to temporarily show you. That's 1, and then there's 4 of those. And you can see, if you look carefully, that includes the cross bracing, it includes the beams, and the girders. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get all 4 of those selected again. I have 4 elements selected, and I click the Make Group icon. I'm going to create a new group out of this. I'm going to call it Structure. Okay, I should capitalize that. And what I'm going to look for is when I make this group, it's going to show up down in my Groups menu down here in the corner. So I say OK. And then what I see now is that I've got a new group. It's a model group. It's called Structure. And inside there, inside the model group, is the typical framing group. And there's several of them. Okay? That's why we've got these multiple brackets, because there's more than one. Doesn't list every single one. For those of you familiar with SketchUp, this is a little bit like the outliner in SketchUp. It's kind of the same idea, except when I pick these, I can't select the objects in here. I select the concept of the object, I can create a new instance of the object from here, but it doesn't select them inside the model. I don't think I can do that. I can right click on it and I can say select all instances in entire project, and then you'll see I select that. So that works a little bit like the outliner at SketchUp. It's a really nice tool to be able to pick items out of the model without having to use your mouse to click on them. Okay, so now that I've got that created, that's step 4, and then this is step 5. There was an error message. I was not able to repeat that error message, but basically what you're going to do with this is you're going to go to the Links tab, or the Insert tab, and you're going to say No, sorry. You're going to go click on the link button on the group panel. So I need to select the group, and on the group panel, this is the link button I was looking for. You're going to click the link button. It's going to convert this group into a link, and you're going to replace it with a new project file. So it's going to create a new project file. You have to name it. It's going to say, hey, why don't you, it suggests to you, use the same file name as the group. I'm going to go ahead and accept that suggestion. In my case, I'm going to place it on my desktop. I have a folder here. That's where I want to put it. And I've already done my exercise, so mine exists. But I'm going to place this new one on the desktop. You're going to put it in the same folder with your other two linked files, the commercial file and the site file. And I click Save, and it's going to create that group. So it rips that group out, makes a new file called structure, because that's how we named the group, and then it will link it back into our file. And here it says it's already got an existing one. Do I want to replace this? I'll say yes, because I'm pretty convinced these are identical. Actually, I'm going to say no because I'm not sure they're identical. Let's, yeah, the one on the desktop will be identical, so I can say yes to that. Because I've done this once before, so it's just making sure that I don't want to ruin my old file. So there's the new file, and that's now a link. So if I go to my Insert tab and click on Manage Links, I can see there's the structure file right there, and it's loaded. And that gets you to the bottom of page 301. Now the rest of the exercise is going to go backtrack a little bit and say, hey, you know what? Even though we made this new file, I'll go ahead and open it. I'm going to close this one. I'm going to close this one. Yes, or no, I'm not going to save changes to Zarzola's work. But then when we say open, if I go to my desktop, I've got that brand new file called structure right here, and we can see that created a new file. So if you've used AutoCAD before, the process we just did is very similar to the idea of creating a W block. You rip one part of the file out, you create a new file out of it, and then it's referenced back in. It also works a little bit like an XREF, because this file, if I were to change this file, then it would change it in the hosting file. So like if I deleted one of these, for example, or if I wanted to come in here and modify one of these, let me just delete two so it's really obvious. Or if I came in here and modified one of these groups and took like a beam out or changed the size of a beam, if I did any of that, once I save this file, and if I were to reopen Zarzola's work, those would be missing because it would reload this information. Now it allows the structural engineer to do their job in one file. It allows the architecture to do their work in a separate file. And the next part of the equation is how do we get this new file we've created to have the different views. We've got some level plans because our levels came with, but we don't have our grids, for example. So if I go to level 1, shouldn't be any grids here. Let's see. Actually, there's nothing here because this is a floor plan, and what I need is a structural plan. Here's my level 1 structural plan, and there should be some beams in here. Let's see. Oh, I deleted them, so yeah, now they're not there. So this one here is level 2, and I can see there's my beams, but no grids. So the next part of the exercise will be to bring in those grids, and that's how that works. Okay, so good luck with that, and I will send out some more videos later today.